Welcome, everybody. My name is Dr. Josh Long. We're here to continue our discussion of music education in the adult world and how people kind of continue making music. This is called AME Podcast, sponsored by Art and Music Emporium, serving artistic excellence. We actually do instrument repair, do lessons, and do different kind of band opportunities, such as Tuba Christmas, which is going on now in December, and a Wildwood band down in Wildwood, New Jersey. So if you're interested, please stay connected. Speaking of staying connected, if you are interested, we do have a Patreon account, which all the money goes towards helping folks kind of play in music education experiences. I'm so excited today. I have a very special guest that I have met through the band world. She was a player meaning a horn player, up in Brattleboro, Vermont, and I met her when I was up in Keene doing a visiting position at a local university. And it was nice to meet her, to hear about her experiences, and then, of course, we have continued to be Facebook friends. So I'd like you to all welcome Tracy Murphy, who went to the Goddard School for Writing, who's also a published writing person. And I will say that I'm so excited to hear of all her endeavors of continuing to make music. And that's what's kind of more the focus today. So I thought, Tracy, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself. Obviously it's more of the music focus,
Yeah.
but tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll start there, if that's cool.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm so excited to do this with you. I was thinking last night about because I was like, Josh is going to ask me to introduce myself. And I was like, where do I start? Because my musical journey has been the most integral part of my being for as long as I can remember. Music has been so central to my life. When I was little, my Grammy and I would sit at her kitchen table and we would listen to big band music and just you know, Singing in the Rain and Sound of Music, lots of those old movie musicals. And I just loved them so much. And that instilled this huge love of singing for me at a young age. And so I started singing pretty much as I could and wherever I could. Like my parents had to make a no singing at the dinner table rule because I would just sit there singing.
That's awesome.
And I was super, super blessed with incredible music educators in elementary school.
Hmm.
I grew up in Vermont, and Southern Vermont in particular has a super rich history of music education and just a appreciation for the arts. And so Andy Davis, who is a traditional folk musician, was my primary music teacher,
Okay.
and he instilled just such a huge love and respect for music for me,
Okay.
as well as Jim Curdy, who was the instrumental band teacher. Um, both of them just incredible musicians and educators.
Hmm.
Um, and I started beginner band in fourth grade on clarinet, interestingly enough.
Oh, wow. I
Um,
didn't know that.
yeah, I don't know where I saw a clarinet for the first time, but I saw it and I was like, this looks magical. Need to know what this is about. And that summer before fourth grade, I begged my parents to buy me a clarinet. I had never played one. I I don't even think I had seen one in person,
Wow.
aside from, not up close anyway. Um, but I saw the cool girls at school playing clarinet and flute. And I was like, I want to be like them.
Awesome.
And so my parents were like, we're not buying you a new clarinet. But my godparents, their now adult children had a clarinet when they were in school.
Okay.
And so they
Hmm.
gave me a used one. And so I started beginner band, clarinet, loved it. But 3 months later, I broke my arm.
Uh, Okay.
and couldn't play. And so I just stopped playing in band, and was just in chorus and stuff. And it wasn't until high school that the band teacher was like, and at this time I'd been doing musical theater and singing a
Hmm.
lot. He was like, Tracy, you'd make a great horn player. Have you ever thought about the French horn? I was like, I don't know what that is. Um, like, what are you talking about? But I was super intrigued. Um,
Right.
and so I went down to the band room one afternoon. He lugged out this strange looking case that smelled foul. Um, and opened it up, and I was like, yes, yes. And I took it out. He did like an elephant, sound.
Yep.
And he was like, can you make this same sound? And I was like, sure, let me try. Um, and thank God for ear training. It worked out really well. I could mimic the sounds he was making.
Hmm.
Um, and then I've been pretty obsessed with horn ever since then.
I know, and
So yeah.
that's how I met you, because I know you've been playing French horn for quite
Yeah.
some time, and
Yeah. So
still are.
after my undergrad finished up, um, I really wanted to play with a community band.
Okay.
And
Hmm.
the Brattleboro Music Center has, great educators who do lessons one-on-one with people. And so I
Okay.
started taking more French horn lessons. And my teacher was like, the Brattleboro American Legion Band is
Hmm.
always looking for players. And I was like, cool, I've been watching that band in parade since I was like 3. Um, why not? Um, and so I went to rehearsal, and it was amazing. And I think that was in 2011 or 2012.
Okay.
Um, and played with them all the way up through January 2020.
2020. Okay. Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. So I have tons of questions for you
Yeah.
after just that short, short bio. So if you don't mind, let's back up to, we were talking about your grandmother, I believe you were
Yeah.
saying, listening to big band music, and
Hmm.
how and I don't, like I said, I don't want to go down memory lane, and and go that far, but I wanted to ask you a little bit of what was it about that time that really made it special for you, as far as
Oh,
listening to music, because obviously you obviously felt the power, what I call the
yeah.
power of music, if we want to call it that, right?
Yeah.
Where you were with your grandmother,
Hmm.
and you shared, you
Yeah.
shared that experience together, and
Yeah.
you're obviously still doing it today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm just interested if you could maybe talk a little bit more about that, and just say,
Yeah.
what was it about it? Was it I don't know, what captivated you? I guess I'll say it that
Yeah.
way.
Oh, that's such a great question, because there's different answers. I
Okay.
think primarily, um, I grew up in a household that was really tricky.
Mhm.
It wasn't an easy home life. So going to my grandparents' house really felt safe.
Okay. Okay.
And music became this haven for me.
Okay.
Um, and it I found it thrilling, first of all.
Hmm.
And I felt energized by it, but also, yeah, just safety comes to mind. Like, I could put it on and I could feel myself kind of sink deeper in my
Okay.
body,
Okay. Yep. Uh-huh. Hmm.
And I love that feeling, and I still feel that way even if I'm sitting down at rehearsal,
Okay.
and you get your horn out, and even once you're like, emptying your spit valve or something nasty like that, it's like you arrive in your body a little bit more.
Okay.
And I felt that way since I was young. I think music listening, music playing, music sharing, like, it's an embodied practice.
Hmm.
Um, and I love that about it, because it not only connects you to yourself, but everyone else is kind of vibing with that feeling too.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and it's funny you say that. And I think, I don't know if you remember, I did share this, I think, when I was up in Brattleboro, at the Legion Band, when we did the one of the Christmas concerts. And I know tis around the season right
Yeah.
now of all that happening. I actually I feel that, because I had my grandmother wasn't my mom had to go back to work. It was just a money situation. So
Yep.
I was with my grandmother quite a bit, and I still remember listening to the Boston Pops. And I don't know if you remember
Yeah.
that or not, and that was just a connection I have. And it's funny because even though I obviously still make music and do all this kind of stuff, but I set up Christmas lights, and that's what we were doing then. And I just got done. I mean, literally, this is the worst week as a teacher because it's the end of the term and semester
Right.
and everything for me right now, right? And I'm outside, till midnight setting up Christmas lights just because like
Hmm.
I have that feeling, and it's like, and I think, that feeling does a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And of
Yeah, it
course,
does.
the connection of family, of course, too. Of course, I'm not disregarding that, but
Yeah.
I'm interested, like, how, and then taking that kind of feeling, and then you went towards clarinet. You never even saw one. It's like,
The
and
weirdest thing.
the weirdest thing, right? And but yet, what was it about it? Do you remember? I mean,
I
was
mean,
it
I remember again
nothing against
seeing,
clarinet?
so
Yeah, no.
right, like the woodwind.
Yeah, right. Because I know you're a brass player.
I used to straight up stalk the high schoolers in my
Okay.
town,
Okay.
the musical theater kids and the band kids and all the kids in the chorus. I would walk my little, fourth grade booty over to the high school and like see them rehearsing or see their concerts, and I was just like almost like starstruck.
Hmm.
I thought they were so
Yep.
cool,
Yep.
and I was amazed that young people were making sound that was reminiscent of the records that my Grammy had. You
Okay.
know,
Hmm.
Steve Rice, who just retired, was the band director at the Bradford High School, and he had an excellent jazz ensemble for
Okay.
the students there,
Hmm.
and in the larger band as well was just top notch to me. Like I thought
Hmm.
they were professionals,
Hmm.
um, and not only in their sound, but in the way that they sort of held themselves.
Hmm.
You could tell that they felt good about themselves. And I wanted to be a part of that. And I think I must have just seen a clarinet player who looked really cool or something because I didn't see a lot of women in brass,
Hmm. Yep.
which later on down the road I would become very interested in.
Hmm.
But primarily I saw, the pretty girls with flute and clarinets, and I
Yep.
wanted to be like them.
Right. I understand.
So
Okay.
I think that must be where I got on that clarinet
You got
kick.
it
It's so weird.
right. No, and it's all, it's all perception. And then kind of that same side where you went to French horn and you stayed with French horn. And
Yeah.
just like you said, I don't want to say this the wrong way. You described this case that you pulled out, or your band director pulled out, and it was
Mhm.
gross.
It was
Because
like,
because as
I
you
was like, what
know,
is that smell?
yeah, because as you know, they sit, and
Yeah.
the condensation in them unfortunately will grow
Yeah.
stuff. You
It
know.
was like a mixture of like spit and valve oil, which is weird because now valve oil is one of my favorite smells.
Interesting.
Like it's very comforting to me. But I just remember it being like, I don't know how my mom's gonna feel if I bring this home because it's disgusting and it weighs like 50 pounds.
Uh-huh. Very interesting. Yeah,
And I
and
remember walking home with it that same day because I walked to and from school, and the case was like banging into my ankle every step I took.
wow.
And I was like, this sucks. But as soon as I got home, the first thing I did, I took it out,
Yeah,
went out in my backyard, and was just going to town, making sound. I was
making
like,
sound. Yep.
it was kind of like being a beginner in band. I was like, just make sound. Or I would hum a tune and try to match it and, try to figure out the
Right.
fingering because I had no idea what, the fingering was. Like, he had given me a fingering chart, but I was just
Mhm.
kind of exploring it.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you mentioned, and this is something, I'll share as a teacher, and I'm sure you already know this, but French horn is hard to play. It's a hard instrument to play. And I mean,
Yeah.
of all the brass instruments, and the reason being is because
That pesky
as you
mouthpiece.
yeah, the pesky mouthpiece and the shelves, where you have all
Yeah.
your
Very close
range
together.
very
And
close together, right? And you made a comment about your ear training. that
Yeah.
it was, and I'm just interested just because, as you said, you discuss that ear training, you're like, wow, it's like it really helped me, which
Oh
I'll be
yeah.
honest, it's night and day. If you don't hear it, it's like playing the violin, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's like, if you don't know if you can't hear it, you,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be out
Yeah,
of
good
tune.
luck.
You know what I
I
mean?
with horn, I'm always like, if I can sing this, I can play this.
That's
Like,
very interesting.
yeah. And I studied voice privately
Hmm.
for almost 15 years
Okay.
and did a lot of ear training with my voice teacher. Um, and I think because I had a really good foundation in music theory and
Hmm.
ear training, that lended itself so well to being a
Okay.
horn player.
It's been, yeah. Okay.
Um, Even if my technical playing wasn't always great,
Yep. Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
I felt like I had a really good roadmap.
Hmm.
And I could trust my ear.
Right.
That was the one thing. Like, even though, the horn is an F,
Hmm.
it would be weird. 'Cause I'm like, this doesn't sound like middle C to me.
Right.
And because it's not, like, because
Right.
I was
Sure.
thinking in concert pitch, but because of that, um, I could find my way around the horn really easily.
Easily. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, and that's great. I mean, it's and I think you're exactly right. Singing, or I've seen some great horn players who are pianists, what I mean,
Mm,
who sat down and played, and they hear the pitch. And I mean,
yeah.
that's something to talk about. And the reason why I wanted to say this is because, you've said this, you're singing, you're playing the horn, you're in school ends, meaning public school.
Yeah.
Obviously you graduate, you go on to college, you're continuing with music. And I want to,
Mhm.
before, and the reason is I want to wait until you join the Brattleboro band, because we'll talk about that in a second. So right up to that point, even when you're going through college, you were still making music. So I guess that's
Yeah.
my question is like, what kept motivating you, especially when, I mean, I don't know. I don't remember. I don't know if there was music experiences at your school, at your,
Hmm.
in college, or if,
Yeah.
you know what I'm asking, because it's like public schools, great, great teachers out there providing
Yeah.
experiences, and then it's like you graduated, see ya, and that's
Right.
it.
Don't let the
You
door
know what I
hit
mean?
you on the way out.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and it's not that I think they want that, but that's
No.
how the program works.
Yeah.
But so you kept going through school, and then again, we'll talk about Brattleboro in a
Yeah.
second. What motivated you, especially when you're trying to
So,
learn a trade, and in kind of in writing, you know what I mean?
yeah. So I had a kind of unorthodox undergraduate situation.
Okay.
I had sort of a mental health crisis right after high school,
Okay.
which was really challenging and I felt really
Ooh,
isolated.
sorry to hear that.
And and so that was hard to kind of get back on track.
Okay.
And once I did, I was like, I need to go into college slowly. For
Okay.
me, I needed something that wasn't going to be overwhelming. So I didn't
Hmm.
want to go straight into a huge university
Yep.
like I
Hmm.
had planned on,
Sure.
for a long time.
Hmm.
And so I was like, I'm just going to check out Greenfield Community College, which is a
Okay.
small college in Western Mass.
Hmm.
Um, and that was probably one of the best decisions I've made career wise and
Okay.
like collegiate career wise. Um, because GCC um, was a very soft landing place.
Okay.
And I was able to declare a theater major as well as a music major
Oh,
to
wow.
begin with.
Okay.
And so I started taking more theory classes, and singing with the chorus there. They didn't have a band program, but I was able to get a teacher.
Okay.
And I had a horn teacher. Her name was Jean Jeffries, and she lived in Western Mass, and she taught at Amherst College.
Okay.
And she was great. And she was just the type of horn player who wanted you to have fun with your instrument,
Right. Okay.
which I feel like once you get to the college level, that's a little more rare.
Yep. I understand.
It
Yep.
wasn't about like, oh, you need this for the jury and you need this and that and you need
Yep.
to know your Mozart excerpts,
Yep.
you know, like, because I have nothing against Mozart, of course,
Yeah, of
but
course.
I love band music.
Hmm.
I love,
Hmm.
I'm not wanting to become a musician who's going to go play symphonies.
Hmm.
Um, and she really respected my love for a different repertoire,
Hmm. Sure.
which was cool.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I did end up shifting gears away from the music major.
Okay.
But having that, just being able to like have a private teacher and just
Hmm.
kind of play by myself for a little while was really freeing because I
Okay.
could just play out of, like the Hal Leonard, books for solo horn.
Right. Right. Right.
And I
Right.
would just
Okay.
play casually by myself, you know, for a year or two,
Wow.
and just practicing the sound, like playing. My neighbors must have hated me because I had this huge big book of Disney that I would like rip through. Um, but it was awesome. And I still do that sometimes. Like I'll just, grab whatever or Christmas music in like June.
So, it seems as though like, and again, I don't want to bring up things that occurred, but it seems that like you went back to music when life wasn't great. I'll say it
It
that
goes
way.
back to saying it's that
Yeah,
safety place. It's a
right.
comfort place.
Okay. And it's very interesting to me, especially where it seems like you said freeing. I think
Yeah.
that's something to say because, um, yeah, I mean, I will say it. I know in the college world, it can be very tight because they're trying to push you to be the best you can,
Yeah.
and sometimes that's hard. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying that, but it's that love of music, and that's what I see in you.
Yeah.
It's just this love of music that you keep kind of falling back on,
Yeah.
through your entire kind of journey here.
Mm-hmm.
So you go on and you kind of join the Brattleboro band.
Yeah.
And I want to talk a little bit about that. Obviously, me, I'm love community bands.
I
It's like
community bands. Oh, the best.
so you mentioned that you've seen them. You obviously seen them since you were very young at age,
Hmm.
but tell me about that experience if you don't mind. So
Yeah.
you kind of joined, and I know you were there for a long time, and I know it was just,
Yeah.
life issues why you're not there anymore, but I'm just interested. Tell me about it. What do
Yeah.
you like
So
about it? What does it do for you?
I, per the recommendation of that music teacher from the Broadway Music Center,
Yep.
I was like, all right, let's try this out. I was pretty nervous the
Okay.
first day.
Okay.
One, because I knew that I would probably be the only one under 25
Okay.
at the time,
Yep.
which was accurate. Actually, I think at the time there may have been like a high schooler
A high schooler.
playing at the same time,
Okay.
but
Yeah, but still, right.
um,
Could say
uh,
adults.
right. So I walk in and, everyone's just kind of like, who is this? But super nice.
Yep.
And I start to recognize a few faces from just, small town
Yep.
living.
Hmm.
Um, and at the time, Ray Brown was directing.
Hmm.
Sadly, Ray is no longer with us, but
Hmm.
I was immediately impressed with his enthusiasm.
Okay.
And Ray's also was also a clarinet player, funny enough. Um,
It's all about the
but he
clarinet.
was, yeah,
That's what we're
he was
figuring
super
out right now.
charismatic. Clearly, um, had a similar love for band music
Okay.
that I did, so I instantly felt pretty comfortable.
Okay. Hmm.
And I was impressed with the selection that we were playing.
Hmm.
I don't remember it being particularly difficult. I think it was, probably like a grade, 2.5 or maybe 3,
Okay. Hmm.
which was pretty standard, I'd say, of that band.
Hmm.
Um, but the selection we played was, I don't know, it gave me that same like invigorated
Hmm.
feeling
Hmm.
that I had been really needing and kind of chasing.
Hmm.
And I remember sat down and we just played B flat concert scale. And I was like, I made it home. Like, this feels so good. Like, it really did. It felt like a
Yep.
homecoming. Um, and yeah, so I played with that band all the way up until I had to relocate.
Yep.
But
Hmm.
that band is so special. I mean, I think everyone says that about,
Yep.
their band,
Hmm.
but
Sure.
the Brattleboro American Legion band feels like a family
Hmm.
in all ways.
Right.
You
Hmm.
sometimes argue with your family, you love your family, you know. Um, but members of the band would, have health problems and would be there for each other. Or I played at two two funerals of band
Hmm.
members,
Yep.
you know, so like really integral parts of each other's lives.
Right.
Um, so just I cannot say enough good things about that band.
Right. Well, and I know, and like I said, that's where I met you, and there's that magic, I will
Hmm.
we'll call it magic that was kind of
Yeah,
happening when I walked in the door. And I was just like, well, just looking for some community groups, what's going on, and walked in the door, and then I found all of you. And you know, my question is, and what what motivate, and what I'm looking at is it this way, because you've already kind of said this, that music kind of really motivates you to kind of keep on with what you're doing,
yeah.
in your life. So what was it about, I guess, the community band in general? Was it just the music making, or was it more than just the music making
I
that
think,
brought you, kept bringing you
yeah.
back, you know?
So I think one of my favorite things about community bands, and this
Hmm.
goes for community theater as well,
Okay.
is that while you're obviously having a blast and like, doing your thing, it's also a service to your community.
Okay.
Um,
Hmm.
in the same way and as important as, a doctor in your community or
Hmm.
a teacher, like you are providing a necessary thing that the community needs.
Hmm.
I think about, doing Veterans Day gigs or
Hmm.
being part of parades, or even an annual Christmas concert, those types of things,
Hmm.
which feel like, um, giving something to the community, but
Hmm.
also something that the community can feel good about and be part of.
Hmm.
Um, and being an active part of your community through music or through theater um, feels sometimes like a lost art.
Hmm.
Um, but I see it on the faces of children and I see it on the faces of adults and of, the elderly.
Hmm.
They really appreciate it, like when you're playing Stars and Stripes for the, bajillionth time of your life, but you see
Right.
a little kid conducting, or you see a veteran maybe like getting tearful.
Hmm.
Um, like nothing beats that,
Hmm.
or we played service songs, at almost every concert we did with the Legion band, and we would invite veterans to stand when they heard their song.
Hmm.
Um, and I remember we did a gig at a VFW, and my grandpa happened to be there.
Hmm.
One of the few concerts that he made of mine, and I flicked my eyes up when the Navy song came on, and he stood up,
Hmm.
and I was just like like blown away, and overwhelmed with just pride and yeah, and and I think about that a lot. I'm like, all of these people are someone's grampy, or
Hmm.
all of these people are here, and
Hmm.
it's not just us playing music, it's everyone here. And
Hmm.
you don't see that in a lot of other ways, do you? Like, it's
Right.
pretty unique.
Yep. Yeah, no, I mean, it goes back to, and I think, not to be cliche, it's like you go back to, they how they talk about the military. It's like you're part
Hmm.
of something bigger than you,
Yeah, it's
and
so true.
I feel
I
like
just played a
that's.
gig at a Christmas event, at a
Hmm.
Christmas tree lighting thing. And this little toddler came up to me at the end of a song, just staring into my bell. like this. Just completely, mesmerized. And so we were just a little brass septet for that gig. And so I, was like, hold on, you guys. And I showed the little girl my horn, and I took my mouthpiece out, and I was like, I blow through here. And when I do that, the air travels through all of this tubing and it comes out at the end. And again, like speechless. But her parents were taking photos of, the encounter, and like, it's just one of those things where it's like, that kid's gonna be thinking about that, and the parents appreciate it. And I don't know, it's just it just feels really good. And that feeling of sharing is another reason that I'm like, I always want to be playing.
Yep. So saying that with sharing is and I'm gonna say this. I know Brattleboro Band was very special, and of course, like, they're still, I know I was there for a very short time. They're very special too, because I remember I walked in and just a quick tidbit, I walked in and was just playing, wanted to play, and met, and I have talked to so many of them still today, and I feel horrible that I'm not around to play with them, but there's
I know
even
you're
talks.
sorely missed.
There's actually speaking of that, there's talks that possibly they want me to come up and help them one time,
Oh,
to do something. So maybe you can come with
that'd
me.
be cool.
So, but
Awesome.
anyway, it's just it's that connection, that it's just like you said. I feel like it's these strangers that you're together with that are not strangers anymore, obviously,
Yeah.
that can make music. And and I know it was hard for you to leave the group, and I know it
Oh,
was, for life, and I know that, but
yeah.
I just wanted to get a little idea of, because I actually don't know what I see what you do on Facebook, but you had to go family, or excuse me, for life reasons. I get that.
Yeah.
And I was just interested if you could talk a little bit more about, you you did you moved on,
Yeah.
and how you're continuing yet. That's what I'm really interested in, because
Yeah.
I feel that love of music. I mean, I know we had the pandemic years and we all did not do
Yeah.
much,
Yeah.
so.
So that was tricky so moving from Vermont to Florida was a huge culture shock for
Okay.
me.
Mm-hmm.
I had been in Vermont my entire life,
Entire life. Yep. Uh-huh.
existed in this kind of vacuum.
Yep. Uh-huh.
So moving to Florida definitely was a change. But the thing that was trickier, like you just said, I think it was 4 weeks later the pandemic hit.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So not only was I looking at this massive life change, I was now looking at this global pandemic.
Yep.
There was no, I could not, make friends by joining a group.
Yep.
I had no outlet really.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even really have a lot of my things because I had planned on bringing stuff down and then going back up and getting more stuff. And then I couldn't do that because
Yep.
airlines stopped,
Yep.
doing their thing. And for a while, I think it was like 4 months, I didn't even have my horn,
Oh, wow.
which was really
Mm,
challenging,
I
because I
bet.
didn't even have that opportunity to just kind of play at home.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Um, and so then once things were looking a little more safe, and I masked and I did everything for probably a lot longer than the average Floridian at the time.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Um, but when there was a band in Orlando, um, that was intriguing to me, and they were a pride band.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they were like, "Hey, come on in. We're looking for new players, and everyone's welcome. We only ask that you wear a mask when you play and put like a cover over your belt,
Yeah.
or
Yep. Mm-hmm. That was
And
standard.
they
Yep.
provided that for you, which I
Yep.
thought was awesome because they
Mm-hmm.
really were committed to like, let's get this going.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Orlando is about an hour away from where I was at the time. So I found someone in my area who was also in the band. I was like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
can I hitch a ride with you? Um, and played with them a few times, and they were really wonderful. Then unfortunately, some breakout COVID cases happened.
Mm-hmm.
So then,
Yep.
stopped doing that. Then there was another community band that started to do the same thing, played
Mhm.
with them for a while, and same as the other band, breakout COVID cases. So like we had 2 concerts that got canceled.
Yep. Mhm.
Um, and so at this point, I'm like, desperate to play a concert. I hadn't,
Right.
at this point, it'd been like 2 years,
Yep.
which felt really bizarre,
Yep. Mhm.
and it's funny because, like, how I was saying, you're playing Stars and Stripes, you could play it with your eyes closed, but it's like I would do anything to play Stars and Stripes right now,
Right. Right. Right.
you
Mhm.
know?
Yep.
Like I had that thought more than one time. I was like, I will play offbeats for as long as you want me to, if it means I can play a concert for people, like, um, so it was really tricky to find a band that I felt comfortable with and that their
Mhm.
safety protocols were good. And I just kept trying to find a musical outlet, and it just was so hard for all of us. Things kept
Mhm.
getting canceled, or
Mhm.
life happened, and so when we moved up to Buffalo, I was like, all right, I need to do this. Like,
Yep.
the pandemic is, obviously, we're not completely out, but
Yep.
much more safe now. And I did so much research. I
Mhm.
contacted universities being like,
Mhm.
hey, are you open to community players? Because I thought of you at
Yep.
Keene, and I was
Yep.
like, hey, like maybe other band
Yep.
directors would be cool with me just sitting in.
Yep.
I contacted, just as anyone I could think of. I
Yep.
was on Facebook relentlessly, and then I found this one band, in one of the suburbs,
Mhm.
in West Seneca, New York, and similar to so many other community bands, they're like, we're trying to pull ourselves up
Mhm.
after COVID.
Yep. Yeah. Everybody
We
suffered through it.
lost a
Yep.
lot of members,
Mhm.
unfortunately, and we're back to basics. And I
Mhm.
was like, okay, like let's do it. And I walked in. They're playing at a senior center. They're
Okay.
rehearsing at a senior center.
Yep.
As soon as I walked in, I had major Brattleboro American Legion band vibes.
Okay.
Everyone was old. I was the youngest, under 40, the pretty much the only one. Um, but everyone was very kind.
Mhm.
You could tell that they were all kind of rusty,
Mhm.
and so was I.
Yep.
Um, but it was fantastic. I felt better at that rehearsal than I had in a long time. Like
Long time.
it
That's
was it
awesome.
was great. And we played a couple summer gigs, played a Halloween gig, just a Christmas thing. They asked me to be on their board, so like now I'm running their Facebook page.
You're back to doing what you were doing before.
Yeah, so I'm doing as much like recruitment as I can, and like just kind of spreading the word like, hey, we're here. And we've seen a huge amount of people join the band.
That's
I
cool.
think that first rehearsal there was maybe 12 of us.
Okay.
And at our last big concert we had 32,
Oh, that's nice.
which
Very
is,
nice.
yeah, which is
Yeah,
great.
that's good.
So that's really cool.
Yeah. Well, I have since you kind of brought it up, you brought it up twice now. This is something that I always ask, that I ponder, and I just thought to get your side of it. It's like, where is our age group? You know what I mean? I feel like
Yeah,
that. It's like when I joined the first community band I got involved with, it we actually started. I was like 26. I was
yeah,
like 15, 20 years than the next participant was, except for
yeah,
my wife who was starting it
yeah,
with me. And then, it's just like you keep bringing up, like, where is I know there's a
yeah,
lot of players, but where are they?
yeah. I know it's a strange thing. It's like a unicorn sighting.
Yep.
Um, but it's really funny because you're right. It's like obviously, that 18 to sort of 25, I can kind of
Hmm.
see them being, less visible because of,
Yep.
college, and if you're doing a master's degree or something like that, like whatever. But I I thought, especially being in a major city, I would see more 30 somethings.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but they're hard to find.
Right. Well, and I get it. I have friends or, they have families, they have
Yeah,
kids, they have jobs, they have work, they're going back
yeah,
to school. Trust me, I get it.
yeah,
But I'm going to say this and not to bring it up, but you're a parent, it's like
yeah. It can be
you're
hard with
working. It's hard.
schedule, and
Yeah, it's scheduling and all that kind of stuff. And
I see a trend where a lot of bands, especially post-COVID,
mhm,
are only playing summer bands,
okay.
and that
Hmm.
seems to bring in that younger demographic
Okay.
a lot more.
Interesting.
I'm not sure if that's true of all places, but certainly
Yeah.
in Western New York,
Hmm.
I'm seeing like yeah, I can commit to this 4 week,
Yeah.
thing with this band. But beyond that, like, oh, like when kids
Yeah.
are in school and like, oh, it's dark at 4:30 and like I don't want to go back out.
Yep. Hmm.
Um,
Well, one of the things I'll just mention, I'm kind of on that same path of trying to find, I started that, I mentioned the Wildwood band, and I would go on vacation down the Wildwood, and literally I send music out about a month and a half prior. We rehearse one day on a Friday, and we do a concert the next day on Saturday, and it's been
yeah,
successful because I think it's a commitment thing. It's just
yeah,
because, and then some people, of course, they'll go down and they'll do the beach and they'll have
yeah,
fun, and that kind of thing. And it's been growing, which has been great. But, I wonder that too, because I have been getting more younger crowd, and of course,
yeah.
they'll go to the water park or go, do the,
Hmm.
do the rides or whatever.
Yeah,
Again, beach. But, I'm just interested, that's something I'm on a quest right now. And again,
yeah.
not that I think what other bands provide weekly, is wrong, but it's
Hmm.
it's it's hard because I'm just interested because I've seen a decline, too.
Well, and I think
It's-
too, something that I think about a lot is, we kind of touched on this before, is after high school, it's like, okay, well, bye. Guess I'll never touch that instrument
Yep.
again, unless you're on this sort of professional track,
Right.
which is such a shame.
It is.
And I talk to a lot of people. I'm like, well, and they're like, oh, I used to play this. I haven't touched it in 10 years. I'm like, do you want to try? Because you're more than welcome to come and you can like really suck if you want for a little bit. Like,
Right.
we're not expecting you to, be like at Carnegie Hall right now.
Right.
We expect to be kind and
Yep.
respectful and want to be here
Right.
because that's like
Exactly.
half of it, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
and that's actually like having those conversations with people is pretty helpful. Like,
Hmm.
I've had, I think maybe 3 people now come in being like, it's been a long time since I touched this horn. And I'm like, great, like, suck as much as you want. Or maybe you'll be
Right.
surprised
Yeah.
and you won't.
Most of the time of what I've seen is with I always say like biking. You ride your
Hmm.
bike all the way up until you start driving, and then you don't ride your bike much anymore
Yeah,
because you're driving in a car. And when you go back to that, you might fall. Sure.
definitely.
You're gonna skin your knees, whatever. But you'll get back to it and it'll come back to
Yeah,
you quick.
yeah,
So, even me, I go on these rides once in a while, and my bottom half really hurts, from the seat, but you get back to it. You get back
yeah,
into it, and that's exactly what I think, with playing instruments.
yeah,
Well, kind of to sort of end this whole like and I really appreciate it, by the way. You sharing your story and kind of in depth. I feel like you just have this like connection to music, and don't by any means take this wrong. And the reason why I'm saying this is you said it yourself. It's like you're not you make a comment that you're not taking it professionally, yet you're taking it professionally because you're still active and you're still
yeah,
playing and you still care, and the mannerisms that you talk about and being in there, but it's more of maybe not necessarily worried about the quality, yet I know you do strive to play well because
yeah.
I know you. um I'm just interested to see like if you could elaborate a little bit more of and you said it way in the beginning. You made a comment of how music has you have this connection to it. And I feel like, and I'm gonna give you this conundrum because I feel this is why I'm doing this, because I have friends who who are all state players who played in all kinds of different groups, and they don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. And give you 10 million excuses.
Yeah.
I'm just interested. You have a love for music, and I know they have a love for music too. What is it about the love of music, the connection of music, that's continuing you to do what you do? Because just like you said, you're back to where you were. I mean, you were a Brattleboro band, you got you were at school, you continued on, you got in a Brattleboro band, you moved on because of life, and then now you're in Buffalo and you are still playing, and
Hmm.
honestly, you're doing the same thing that when I met you, know,
Hmm.
10 years ago or whatever it's
Yeah.
been now.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. So what can you say about that as far as, for other people,
Yeah.
or your love of it, your connection of it? You see where I'm going with this? Because it's
Yeah,
like
I think
this
so.
is what I'm battling with, because I
Yeah.
feel there's so many people out there that could just pick up their instrument again, and
Yeah.
it would serve the community,
I
just like you
think
said.
I think speaking as a millennial anyway,
Hmm. Hmm.
I think a lot of us were sort of raised with this concept of, you know, you go to college, you get a job, and that's what you do, and what you do is who
Yep.
you are,
Yep.
which I find actually kind of damaging.
I agree.
Um, it's not only limiting, but it also denies a lot of the rest of who you are.
Hmm.
And for me, music playing feels like a vocation.
Hmm.
Um, and like I said before, like obviously no one's paying me the big bucks to play
Hmm.
in a community band or any bucks.
Yep. Huh?
It it is a calling for
Hmm.
me. And I think a lot of people forget that you have callings that are not adjacent to like being paid,
Hmm.
and we kind of put all of our eggs in that career basket.
Right. Hmm.
And it's like, what would happen if you allowed yourself to think of yourself as a musician?
Hmm.
Like to say, like, I am a musician. Like, am I in
Hmm.
the New York Philharmonic? No,
Hmm.
but that doesn't mean anything. Like I could say I'm
Hmm.
in the Broadway American Legion band, I'm in the West Seneca band,
Hmm.
and that holds just as much weight.
Hmm.
Um, and sometimes more.
Hmm.
Um, because you're not being paid. No one is forcing you to go to rehearsal.
Hmm.
You don't have to show up and clock in.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that connects really well to that freedom thing I was talking about.
Yep.
Um, there's a freedom in having a vocation that is a choice.
Hmm.
Being a musician by choice and choosing it every day
Hmm.
is, I don't know, it, not to sound cliche, but it feels like a blessing to me,
Hmm.
and has felt that way for me. And I think those people who, will give you 10,000 excuses why they won't pick up their horn, it's like, well, what if you shifted your mindset,
Hmm.
and had a different framework here
Hmm.
about your identity?
Hmm.
Like I might tell someone, someone says, "What do you do?" Right? You have to think, "Oh, well, what do I get paid to do?"
Right.
And that's fine. But what if you said, like, "Oh, I'm a musician"? Is it not true?
Right.
You know, like you are, but we don't think of it that way. And it's kind
No.
of
Nope.
unorthodox. And you might be
Nope.
like, am I lying? Like, why am I telling people this? You know? But
Right.
I don't know. I think if we think of ourselves with a vocation that we choose to have without stress and without financial, constraint, that will feel really good.
Hmm.
um and will keep you wanting to um participate.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Very well said.
Yeah.
Because you're right. Because just like I said, this thing of, oh, I just play my instrument. I'm not a musician, or I'm not a professional. I'm an amateur. What everybody
Yeah.
just sells themselves so short. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's I was just having a conversation with my wife about this. I said the thing that I love to do the most is taking folks who really want to be there, who play
Hmm.
music, and pushing them and challenging them and making them play, I know you mentioned Stars and Stripes Forever, but playing high level music making,
Yeah.
and even when they're scared to do it and
Yeah.
finding that they can do this. And, it's something to say about that. And,
I
it's,
can specifically for you there, I don't know if you remember this, but we were, and this obviously isn't, the most challenging music ever, but we were playing a Mary Poppins medley, and there was this little galloping section, and it was a pain in the ass, and our band could not play it. We were really struggling, but your direction and your enthusiasm was
Mhm,
so infectious
mhm,
that the band, we all wanted to get it right,
right, right.
Um, and again, all of us coming from different places in our lives, some of us in our 80s, some of us, high school students, some of us in our 30s, some of us voting Republican, some of us, like
Mhm, right,
all over the place, people you would probably never really hang out with otherwise,
right, right.
coming together.
Yep,
And it's like, this is what we're choosing to do because it is one of
yep,
our favorite things to do.
yep.
Like that's, you don't get that anywhere
No, you
else.
don't. No, you don't. And it's funny, thank you for bringing that up, but that tune, I can hear it in my head right now.
I still hate that thing.
I still remember that. I was like, what are you talking about? And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I remember what she's talking about now. but it's so true. It's I know, and it's just and hence why I kind of started this podcast. Is just
Yeah.
to more or less to start capturing these experiences that people are having, that are sharing, about music. And you said a lot, and I really appreciate it. So I just want to say thank you. And
Yeah.
I also want to say, and I know you don't need this because you get it from a reward from playing your instrument, but thank you for being so involved with the community band
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds very weird in saying the community band experience, but I say that because you have always jumped right in each and every place you've been and have
Yeah.
gotten actively involved, even though that I don't want to say it's the wrong way. Most community bands, because you're young, will be like, "Hey, fresh meat, bring you in."
Literally.
you know, we need you. But it's the fact that they want to see it continuing,
Yeah.
and you're doing that.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, and I hope you continue as you move forward in the rest of your life and
Yeah.
beyond, as I say.
Yeah. Thanks for chatting.
Yes, thank you so much, and thank you everybody for watching this, episode, as I call it, of AME Podcast. And thank you again, Tracy, for everything. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.